Good morning, lovely Year 6. It is Wednesday, the third day in our 4-day week. The date is the 6th of the 5th, 2020, or the 6th of May, 2020. And today we're going to continue our learning on conversion. Okay, so I'd like you to write down today's date, numerical date and in Roman numerals, and then I'd like you to write down our learning intention, which is to be able to convert imperial measures to metric measures. So what is the objective of today? What's the purpose of today's lesson? Well, the purpose of today's lesson is to make sure that you know which method is needed to compare different units of measure, so you know how to go about comparing units. And for some of you, you'll be able to recall how many kilograms there are in a pound, how many litres in a pint, etc. So the focus of today's lesson is not for you to remember necessarily every conversion rate. That's not what we're expecting. For some of you, you will remember that, but for others, you won't. But for most of you, it's just for you to be able to understand, how do I interpret the information that is in front of me? So if I've given you, this is the conversion, this is how many litres there are needed, how many litres there are in a pint, can you interpret that information? Okay, and that is the purpose of today's lesson. What should you already know though in order to go on to today's lesson? Hopefully by the end of today you have completed and understood all the previous lessons on metric measure, and you can convert between kilometres and miles. And that's really, really important because kilometres and miles, kilometres are measured in metric unit. Miles is a form of imperial measure. Okay, so it's really important. If you can do that from yesterday, then you're ready for today's lesson. If you're still not sure, then I suggest you have a look at Khan Academy, which I have mentioned many times before, where I think he explains really quite clearly the tasks using lots of visual aids that sadly I'm not that technological yet, so I can't yet show you, but it can be quite useful, and I think it might be good to just have a look and see what information is there and then complete some of the tasks. So for today's lesson, as always, you will need a pencil. No surprise there. You'll also need a paper. You'll need your hands today. But I always have my hands, Miss Bartley, you wonder. Well, you're definitely going to need them today. You're also going to need your foot. You're going to need a 10-minute timer, the worksheet which was emailed this morning but can also be found on the Year 6 Maths blog page under week 5, and it can also be found on the Grange website under Year 6. So if you haven't got the email, there are a number of places where you can find it. And you need a positive attitude to learn. Check. So before we start today, for our math starter, we did one like this last week. I'd like you to choose your level of difficulty, set your 10-minute timer, and then have a go at finding the answer to each of the problems. So, set your timer and go. Excellent. So, hope you all did remember to pause the video there. We're going to go through the answers. So the answers are shown on screen. To find 125% of something, well, 100% is the amount that we already have, and then you're adding on 25% of that original amount. If you've got any questions at all regarding the calculation part, this part, our starter, then please email us, and then if I see that actually it's something that maybe you're struggling with, I can reply back to you and give you some support that way. But if I get a number of emails from a number of people that are all struggling with the same thing, then I can do a lesson on that topic specifically. So do please get in touch if there's something that you're finding a bit tricky. If you need a little bit more help on fractions of an amount or finding percentage of an amount in particular, then the link shown on screen can be quite helpful. So BBC Bite Size, and then if you go to the topic section there and look up how to find a fraction of an amount. Also, if you go to Khan Academy and look up percentages of an amount. So you remember I said you need your hands and feet today. Now I'd like you to get moving. Yep, get up off that chair and you use your feet to measure the length of your room. Once you've done that, use your hands to measure the height of your room. But I don't want you to just do it on your own. I want you to grab someone else in your household and get them to do exactly the same, measuring the length of the room with their feet and the height of the room with their hands. Pause the video here whilst you do that. Excellent. Once you've finished, I'd like you to compare your results. So how many hands did you say the height of the room was? And how many hands did your partner say the height of the room was? The same with your feet. What was the length of the room in feet for you and for your partner? Was there a difference or was it exactly the same? You probably noticed that there was a difference, although it depends. But more than likely, there would have been some difference. And the reason being that using our hands and feet to measure is not accurate because our hands and feet vary from person to person. If I asked a 2-year-old to measure the length of a room using their feet, and then I did it myself, we'd definitely have different answers because they would need more steps. They would need to use more feet than I would as an adult. But imperial units is what we're learning about today. And imperial units were originally based around body parts. That's right, they were based around body parts. A foot, a hand, even a yard was based around body parts. A yard was originally the length of a man's belt or girdle, as it was called. In the 12th century, King Henry I of England fixed the yard as the distance from his nose to the thumb of his outstretched arm. So touch your nose, stretch your right arm out. Yep, that was the distance of a yard. Today, we say it's 36 inches. In ancient Egypt, a cubit was another unit of measure, which was used to measure the distance, and they defined a cubit by the distance from the elbow to the fingertips. So again, stretch your arm out, look at the distance between your elbow and your fingertips, and that would have been a cubit. Metric measure wasn't actually introduced until the very, very, very end of the 1700s, and it started in France. The metric system was based on the measurements of Earth at the time. So when they introduced it, they said, the distance from the North Pole to the equator, if we divide that by 10 million, that's going to be our meter. And that's what they based the metric system on. And that was introduced that we would have more consistency in measurements. The French inch, which was another imperial unit of measure at the time, was different to the British inch. Can you imagine the problems that would have caused? All sorts. So it was really important that they established a consistent unit of measure. So England adopted the metric unit of measure in 1965, but it wasn't until 2000 that regulations were put in place to say that we must use metric units of measure, whether it's in the sale of goods or in formal documents. And that's where its popularity has grown. So if you ask maybe one of your grandparents or one of the older generation in your family, they may well be a lot more confident with the imperial unit of measure, because that's what they would have probably grown up with or talked about as they were growing up. So they would probably have talked about a baby being born and mentioned how much it weighed in stone, whereas nowadays we talk about that in kilograms. In the United States of America, though, they still use imperial measure, and there are a few other countries around the world that still do. However, in Europe, we use the metric measure. Now, we've talked a lot about metric measures over the last, week and a half, 2 weeks. Thinking about all the terminology that we've already come across, I would like you to sort the metric and imperial measures accordingly into the grid. So if it's a word that maybe we've discussed already recently, then you probably know that that is going to be metric. And if it's not, then it's probably imperial. Pause the video whilst you do that. Excellent. So let's go through the answers. Millimeters, centimeters and meters all measure distance or length. And kilometers. Milligrams, grams and kilograms and tons measure mass or weight. Milliliters and litres measure volume and capacity. So in imperial measures, inch, yards, a foot or feet plural, and an acre measure the distance or length. Ounce, pounds, stone measure mass or weight, and pint or gallon measures volume and capacity. So here is a little conversion grid to help us today. Remembering we're converting from imperial to metric and metric to imperial. We also need to remember today what our symbol, what this wavy equal symbol means. And remember it means it is approximately equal to. It means it's not an exact science, but it means it's approximately equal to. Okay, so 1 ounce is actually equal to 28 grams and a number of numbers after the decimal. But we round that up to 30 grams to help make it a lot easier for us to be able to convert. So it's approximately equal to. So here's our problem, and we're going to have a go at solving it together. Remembering that the purpose of today's lesson is to be able to roughly equate metric measures to imperial measures. Doesn't mean you're going to remember all of the conversions, because you probably won't. A few of you might, but the majority of you probably won't. But the main idea is that we can look at the information that we're given and we can interpret it correctly. Okay, so that's the purpose of our lesson today, that we can interpret the information correctly and understand and compare the units of measure by using the information that we're shown. And we can be able to convert metric measures into imperial measures using that information. So without further ado, let's solve this problem together. Laura wants to make a cake. The recipe says she needs 1 pound of flour. She has 250 grams of flour. Does she have enough? First of all, find part of our table which is going to help you solve this. Centimeters, 1 centimeter is approximately equal to 0.4 inches. Is that going to help you? Probably not. Not for this question. You need to find the section where we're talking about pounds and grams. Have you found it? Excellent. Put your finger on it. Now we can see that 1 pound is approximately equal to 450 grams. She has 250 grams. Does she have enough? Excellent. No, she does not. How much more does she need to have a pound of flour? Yep, that's right. She needs 200 more grams of flour in order to make sure she has enough to make her cake. Jane bought a half a pint of milk. Tom bought 2 litres of milk. Stop there. Find the box where we're comparing those 2 units of measure, a pint and a litre. Find that box, and you might find more than one. Excellent. How much milk did they have all together? Write the answer in litres. So for this question, we're going to need to make sure that we have converted Jane's half a pint of milk into litres. So Jane bought half a pint of milk. What would half a pint of milk be in litres? Well, we can see that 1 pint of milk is approximately equal to 0.6 litres, or 600 millilitres. If 1 pint is equal to 0.6 litres, what would half a pint be equal to? Excellent. Half a pint is equal to 0.3. So Jane has 0.3 litres of milk. Tom has 2 litres of milk. Can you add 2 litres of milk to 0.3 litres of milk? How much milk do they have? If you wrote 2.3 litres of milk altogether, well done. If you wrote 2,300 millilitres of milk, then I'm afraid you're not quite right, because the answer had to be written in litres. Let's try another one together. Now, for this one, if you struggled with the last few, then maybe don't have a go at this one just yet. But if you found the last few a bit easy, then let's go on to this challenge one together. Emma and Dean are discussing how much they weighed at birth. Dean weighed 6 pounds at birth. Emma weighed 3.15 kilograms at birth. Who weighed more? So in order to compare their weights, we need to make sure we're comparing them using the same unit of measure. So we can see that Dean has measured his weight in pounds, whereas Emma has used kilograms. So we're going to start off by trying to convert Dean's weight, his 6 pounds, into kilograms. Have a look at the grid at the top of the screen. Which section is going to help us with this question? Put your finger on it now. Excellent. Well done if you put your finger on 1 kilogram is approximately equal to 2.2 pounds. That's the section that's going to help us. So if Dean weighed 6 pounds at birth, we need to convert that into kilograms. We're going to need to divide 6 by 2.2 pounds. But that's quite tricky. So there's a method we can use to help us do that quite quickly, or a lot easier, which is to multiply both the numbers by 10, so that we're dividing by a whole number. So instead of 6 pounds divided by 2.2, we could do 60 pounds divided by 22. And then we can use our column method to help us there. If you feel confident enough dividing by a decimal number and remembering where your decimal needs to go, you can do that method too. But either of those methods will give you the same answer, okay? Because where we've multiplied by 10 both of our numbers, our answer is still going to, the amount of times that 22 can go in times 60 is going to be the same as the amount of times that 2.2 can go inside 6. So you can write it using the bus stop method, and just remember to put your decimal back in the correct place, looking at the number 2.2, or you can multiply both numbers by 10. Hopefully, when you did that, you got this answer. You got that Dean weighed approximately 2.7 kilograms at birth. He weighed approximately 2.7, whereas Emma was 3.15 kilograms. And if we look at those two units of measure, we can see that Emma weighed more than Dean at birth. Well done if you managed to get those correct. We're going to have a go at comparing two amounts using different units of measure. So looking at the information that's shown, let's see if we can use that to help us. And we're going to compare the amounts using the greater than, less than, and approximately equal to symbol. So if we've got 1 centimetre and we were to compare that to 0.2 inches, we know that 1 centimetre is approximately equal to 0.4 inches. So if I've only got 0.2 inches, have I got more or less than a centimetre? 1 pound compared to 1,300 grams. 5 ounces compared to 150 grams. And 25 litres compared to 18 pints. Pause the video here whilst you work out which symbol should go in between each of those amounts. Excellent. Let's go through the answers. We know that 1 centimetre is greater than 0.2 inches because we need 0.4 inches to make a centimetre. 1 pound and 1,300 grams. Well, 1,300 grams is greater because we know that we need 450 grams to make a pound. So if I've got more than 450 grams, then I've got more than a pound. 5 ounces and 150 grams. So for this one, they are approximately equal, because 5 ounces, to get from 1 ounce to 5 ounces, we need to times that by 5. To get from 30 grams to 150 grams, we also times it by 5. So we know that 5 ounces is approximately equal to 150 grams, because both of those original units shown in the last row at the top, we multiply by 5 to get these new units, so they're both the same. And lastly, 25 litres compared to 18 pints. 25 litres is greater. And the one to look at here to help you would be the section that says 1 litre is approximately equal to 1.8 pints. That's what we're going to use to help us, because if we times 1.8 by 10, we get 18 pints. So to get from 1.8 pints to 18 pints, we have to multiply by 10. Now, if we take that multiplied by 10 and we times 1 litre by 10, we get 10 litres. That is less than 25 litres. So 10 litres is approximately equal to 18 pints. That means 25 litres is more than 18 pints. Hope that makes sense. Now I'd like you to have a go at completing these questions independently. Use the coloured boxes to help you and pause the video here. Let's go through the answers. Use these facts to complete. 2 feet is equal to how many inches? Well, if we look at the orange box on the right, we can see 1 foot is equal to 2 inches. So 2 feet is double that. Double 1 is 2, and double 12 is 24. So our answer is 24. 6 inches is approximately equal to 15 centimetres. Now we're going to look at the orange box on the left. We've been given the unit 6 inches to start with. From 1 to 6, we have to multiply 1 by 6 to get to 6 inches. So we need to do the same with our 2.5 centimetres. 2.5 centimetres times by 6 is 15. 15 centimetres. Remember to wear your method hat as well as your logic hat when solving each of these. Always look back at it afterwards and think, does that make sense? 36 inches is the same as 3 feet. If we look at the box on the orange box on the right, we can see that 12 times 3 is 36, or we could do 36 divided by 12 gives us 3. So we know that we had to times that 12 by 3 to get to 36. So now we need to do the same with the foot. Times that by 3 and you get 3. 3 feet equal to 36 inches. Now 4 feet. 4 feet is approximately equal to. Now this one's a bit trickier because there isn't an orange box which compares directly feet and centimetres. We're going to have to use both of these boxes to help us. Now, if we're comparing our feet to centimetres, then first of all, we're going to look at how many centimetres there are in an inch. There are 2.5 centimetres in 1 inch, but there are 12 inches needed to make 1 foot. So, we take our 2.5 centimetres, that equals 1 inch, and we times that by 12. 2.5 centimetres times by 12. You should have got 30. So there are 30 centimetres in 12 inches. Then we take that 30 centimetres and we multiply it by 4 because we want to know how many centimetres there are in 4 feet. 30 centimetres is how many there are in 1 foot. We want to know 4 feet. So we do 30 times 4 and we get 120 centimetres. Let's go on to the next section. 1 pound, which can also be written as LB, is equal to 16 ounces and 1 stone is equal to 14 pounds. 2 pounds is equal to 32 ounces. To get from 1 pound to 2 pounds, we have to times it by 2. So 16 times 2 is 32. 5 stone is equal to £70. To get from 1 to 5, we times it by 5. So we do the same with our 14, we also times it by 5. And a quick way to work that out is to do 14 times 10, which is 140, and halve it. £20 is equal to 320 ounces. If we look at our pounds, to get from 1 to 20, we had to multiply by 20. So we do this to get from 16, we also need to multiply that by 20. 16 by 10 is 160, and if we double that, we get 320. But some of you might have worked it out the same way I did. I looked at the row just above, and I could see that £2 was equal to 32 ounces. The next section is just 10 times that. So therefore, I knew that £20 was equal to 320 ounces. 11 stone is equal to 154 pounds. And the way to work that out is to do 154 pounds divided by 14. Now, you should know that 140 divided by 14 is 10. 154 is just 14 more than that. So 154 divided by 14 is 11. You might have used the written method there to help you as well. How many gallons are equivalent to 64 pints? Well, for this one, we know that 1 gallon is equal to 8 pints. If we've got 64 pints, that means we've taken that 8 pints and we've times it by 8. So we need to do the same with the gallon. We also need to times that by 8. 1 times 8 is 8. How many pints are equivalent to 15 gallons? So, to get from 1 gallon to 15 gallons, what do we have to times it by? That's right, we times it by 15. So, we do the same with our 8 pints, times it by 15. And if you want to times by 15 mentally, it's a good idea to do 8 times, split the 15 into 2 parts. Partition the number into 10 and 5. 8 times 10, 80. 8 times 5, 40. 80 plus 40, 120. How many gallons are equivalent to 2 pints? So this one's a bit trickier because 2 pints is less than the unit that's shown on screen. We're shown that 8 pints is equal to 1 gallon. So to get from 8 pints to 2 pints, we need to divide by 4. 8 divided by 4. So we need to do the same with 1 gallon. Divide that by 4. 1 whole divided by 4 gives us 0.25 gallons. Well done if you managed to get those. Now I'd like you to have a look at the worksheet which you would have been sent in the email this morning, but that you can also find on the online learning tab year 6 as well as in the Purple Mash blog for Maths week 5, and complete the task shown on screen. How many centimetres are in 20 inches? How many inches are in 12.5 centimetres? Look through each of the questions, choose the level that's appropriate for you, and off you go. There's a little link shown at the bottom of the screen if you did want to do some more work on imperial and metric measure. Here's also another link that you might want to use, BBC Bite Size, to continue your learning on imperial measurements. Please remember to email us your work at yr6@grange.harrow.sch.uk. Have a great day.